I'm just gonna sleep on the desk. That's how we'll start the show today. We'll play games. It's an audio-visual platform.
Well, just
Wait.
You get a lot more fans if we tell him he's hungover. Welcome to Eye on Sports, where we delve into the biggest Butler County sports topics. I'm your host, Butler Eagle Sports writer Derek Pida. Joining me are fellow sports writer Brendan Howell and Eagle Sports editor Jake Murda Adams. So, Jake, you had a memorable trip out east to Philadelphia this past weekend. You got to tell us exactly why you went and how it turned out.
Yeah, I'm feeling it today. I'm gonna be feeling it for a few days.
Yeah, you walked in here you're struggling.
This is normal. After I run Broad Street, I am in pain for about 3 days. I keep making noises, and Mallory's like, "Are you okay?" And my answer is just, "Nope." That's it. No, I ran Broad Street this week for the first time since 2020. And the last time that I ran it in 2020 was during the pandemic, so they did it virtually. So I ran it around Carlisle because I was still living there. I had been trying to get back to run this for a couple years. Couldn't do it when I was living in Madison and Louisville because that's just not a good use of a long weekend and driving 16 plus hours. And then the last 2 years, I couldn't really do it because I was dealing with injuries. I wasn't quite sure what they were until I finally started getting them treated last year. It was just a groin issue that the socket wasn't strong enough the way that I needed it to be, all the little muscles inside there. Got that kind of taken care of. It's in better shape. It's not great yet, but it got strong enough where I was able to train this winter, and April was the cutoff of like I either have to defer my entry for next year or I have to commit and run it this year. And I did a long run like the day before or a couple days before the deadline, and it held up all right. So I was like, all right, we're in. So I trained in on Friday. That was an experience. That was it actually wasn't bad because I could just sit there and like do some stuff on my laptop and read. Hung out with some friends. We did karaoke at a Japanese bar on Friday night, and then Saturday was a little bit more laid back, just walking around the city a little bit. And then Sunday was race day at 7 o'clock in the morning. For the second time in a row. The last time I did this in Philly was 2019. This was race number 5 for me, I think it was. 6. It was 6. The last time I did it in Philly was 2019, and the SEPTA subway that we were on broke down on the track about 1.5 miles from the starting line. And we were stuck in the middle of 2 stops, so we had to wait until they could basically push us to the next stop, get off, and we had to walk, up to the starting line. We started like 30 minutes late. This time, the train in front of us stopped. It broke down in the middle of the track. So we had to get off at a stop, and then they told us we could get back on as we were getting off because suddenly they had moved the train far enough out of the way, the broken down one, that they could move traffic again. Yeah. And then they told us to get off again and then get back on. So we were like for 20 minutes just kind of going back and forth until they finally got us up to the starting line like 10 minutes after. And by that point, it's like, well, now I got to go find a bathroom to use. And so I started like 50 minutes after I was supposed to. And the goal this year was just cross the finish line in one piece. And I did that. It was the slowest I've run this race. I'm not fast to begin with. I've generally run it in about an hour 35 to an hour 40. This year I did it in 1:45. Some of that was just trying to take it a little easy, but a lot of it ended up being like cramping from probably didn't eat the best the day before in terms of like stuff that's not going to like fill you during the race and be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But also the humidity on Sunday morning was like, we thought it was going to rain during the race. It never broke. We had like a couple drops. So the humidity just stuck. And so like a little bit of a full stomach running, in the humidity, everything just kind of like, it wasn't cramps where I'm like seizing up. It was just like, I am uncomfortable. Yeah. And so like the last 5 minutes or 5 miles of the race, it was just kind of like grind it out as much as I could for the first, like every year I've done this, I've just gone in with the goal of when I start running, I don't stop until I cross the finish line. And that was a goal again this year, but I failed on that one. So I had to walk a couple times. But I saw some friends, along the way that, were able to say hi. And I was just glad to kind of finish it this year. Like I had been trying to push my way back for a while into this. So just to get to do it was good. I don't know how many more of these I'm going to be able to do because I'm not physically a good runner.
How long of a race is it?
It's 10 miles, exactly 10 miles from Olney Street on Broad Street in North Philadelphia all the way down to the Naval Yard in South Philly. So you go past the stadiums and everything, go around City Hall.
You're training like Rocky.
I'm training almost like Rocky.
Did you drink your eat your egg yolks in the morning?
I had a bagel and egg sandwich the next day or after the run. So this is like another reason I'm hurting so badly right now is I didn't get a chance to like stretch out after. I walked back to the subway, which is about a mile to like the southernmost subway stop on Patterson Avenue, and then subwayed up to my friend's house where we were staying. And then it was a quick shower. I tried to roll out my calves a little bit, crawl up the stairs, get our stuff, and we went to a diner. But by the time we got to the diner, we had to order an Uber to get us over to the train station on 30th Street because we started noticing that traffic was backing up on 95 and on 676 because, of course. So we basically ordered takeout, got on the Uber. We got there 10 minutes before the train was supposed to leave, but thankfully like it didn't leave for another 10 minutes after that because it was just a long line and they needed to do some maintenance on the train while it was sitting in the station. So I'm sitting in a train for 6 hours, just like cramping the whole time, just uncomfortable. It took like a 10-minute nap at one point because my body kind of broke down, and then I woke back up and I couldn't sleep the rest of the way. And so it was just
you did it to yourself, Jay.
I did.
You did it to yourself.
I blame no one at all. It was definitely it was worth it. I'm glad that I was able to get back to it. I'm hoping that I can do it again next year and do it a little bit better. My long-term goal is I want to run one of these at a 9-minute pace or better, which would be crossing in an hour 30 or less. The closest I've been, I think, was like an hour 32 or an hour 33. So, you know, I'm just glad that I finished. It was a tough race for reasons that I did everything I could to train myself to be ready for this, and I'm proud of that. So, you know, next year hopefully is a little bit better. Hopefully my body's a little bit stronger. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's not easy to run a race like that, especially if you're not an avid racer, because some people, they do multiple races a year. And I got to ask, what'd you eat for dinner the night before?
Well, it was basically 2 meals all of Saturday. It was a really big brunch at Morning Glory in South Philly, which is this awesome place that my friends take us to almost every time we go. So there it was like French toast, eggs, bacon, a biscuit, like strawberry jam on a bunch of that stuff. And then Saturday night, Mallory insisted on ramen and sushi. So I got, what was it? I got a roll of sushi, and I forget what else I got. I tried to have a little bit of like carb stuff, but then I got ice cream. I think it was the ice cream that did me in. I'm not going to lie. So, yeah, it was a good time.
I don't think I've ever turned down ice cream, so I can't blame you there.
I wanted ice cream on Friday, and we didn't get it. And so, like, Mallory kind of made it a mission on Saturday to get me ice cream. And I'm like, I don't think this is a good idea. And finally, I just caved to the peer pressure.
Probably not a good
idea.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I'm lactose intolerant, or at least, like, just, like, very mild. Like, it just, my stomach doesn't like it anymore the way that it used to.
Fellow Clarion grad, do you remember Chandler Dining Hall?
Yeah.
On top of the hill?
Of course I do. Yeah.
The ice cream there was literally a laxative. And
I
was able to plan for it from time 2 the whole time I was at college, but time 1 I didn't realize it.
I don't know if I ever had the ice cream. I used to tell you about the food though. I'd load up my tray because I was always coming from track practice, but we had to sprint that hill.
Yeah,
they used to make us sprint that hill, so that was good times because we'd be sprinting and then we'd get to the top, and usually that's where we would vom. And then we'd be running down and they'd be like, well, we're about to head back up here and eat. One of
many buildings that was there when we were there that no longer exists.
Oh, I love that building.
I lived in Campbell Hall my first 2 years. It was demolished literally like 16, 17 years ago.
Wait, they demolished Campbell Hall?
Oh, yeah. It's a parking lot now.
That's ridiculous.
Right next to the rec center.
Okay, so I worked at the rec center. Yeah. I lived in Campbell the second semester of my sophomore year. I was in Nair Hall first semester. I was OG over on the other side of the hill. I was like, I literally have to walk uphill both ways to class. That's not a joke.
And you graduated from Butler what year?
98.
Okay, so this would have been what, 2000 then?
Yeah.
Okay. I graduated from Clarion in December of 2000.
Okay.
So I guess I would have been there for half of your college career, basically.
Yeah.
TJ's just listening to us talk about how ice cream makes our stomachs uncomfortable and vomiting up hills. I think he's here.
Yeah.
Let's see a black screen. Hey,
Hi.
TJ.
I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Sorry,
Oh, good. I'm glad we're
just,
entertaining.
we're just chatting. We're just chatting.
Well,
You can't see
I like
me.
to hear that there's some folk, the Clarion people here, the north of I-80. You're getting up to my territory, Northwest PA.
Absolutely. I knew nothing about Clarion County when I went to school. Now it's still one of my favorite places in the world. I love it up there.
Yeah, it's beautiful up that way.
The context you were missing behind the ice cream stories is that I ran Broad Street in Philadelphia yesterday, and I am in a lot of pain.
He walked in here like an old man.
Yeah.
There he
was
is.
walking
Slow.
gingerly for a few days. Hey, TJ.
Hey, guys.
Oh, perfect.
How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
No
Yeah,
problem.
No problem. Happy to have you join us. So how's it been going?
I mean, it's been a whirlwind. I mean, it was a month on Friday that I had gotten the job, and I feel like it's been a year already, but a lot to do still. When I got hired, it's kind of late in the game into the off season here, and we're approaching the season, so we still have a lot to do, but we're excited about it, and we're going to hit the ground running. So
I see we got another visor coach in the county now.
I
You got visors, you got straw hats. I see a lot of
straw.
Yeah.
Oh, like the Nick Saban straw.
Yeah,
Okay. Joining us on the podcast this week is Knoch football coach TJ Wiley. It was just over a month ago that TJ was approved by the Knoch School Board to take the reins of the Knights. TJ, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
What are your thoughts on the interview process that you went through for this job, and what makes Knoch the right fit for you?
It was an extensive process. I mean, it was 3 full rounds. I mean, I've held many jobs as a head coach. If you've tracked my history and looked at my resume and things like that, it was probably the most extensive interviewing process I've been through in my head coaching times. Like I said, 3 full rounds. The first round was pretty straightforward, pretty simple questions, just my background and my philosophies and things like that. But when I got into the second round, and I got to tip my cap to Knoch on this, it was very detailed. It was very football detail oriented. I mean, they were really like asking me X's and O's, like what footwork would be like for my quarterback and quick game. And, what are your splits like against this? What would you run on 3rd and 7 if you were given this front? And I appreciated that. Like I was ready for it. Don't get me wrong. That's my wheelhouse. But like they did a very nice job. And then the third round was in front of the school board, and, just a lot of those types of questions when you're in front of a school board. But I mean, it took about a full month for the whole thing to shake out. Each round I felt very confident in where I stood. My last round with the school board, I felt, when I walked out of there, I felt like I had done a very good job. And in my eyes, I thought to myself, I was like, I left it all on the table, and I couldn't do any more than I did. And lucky enough, they said that I was the guy, and here I am now as the Knoch Knight football coach.
In the month or so since, a lot of the kids are playing different sports, so it's not, you probably haven't gotten a chance to meet them or get to know them a lot, but like, how has the process been of getting to know the returning guys, and maybe even trying to meet some of the middle school guys that are going to be coming up next year? Are you using like flashcards with names and their photos on them to like try to remember everything? Like, how's this whole process go this quickly?
Not quite that, but like, I've been coming up, like our weight room has been open for 4 days a week, even before I was hired. I got to tip my cap to them to keep, the ship afloat while they were looking to hire a coach. And, we came in, and I've been coming up here 2 to 3 days a week where I can. I mean, I teach in Robinson, so it's a hike for me to get up here, but I come 2 to 3 days a week to the weight room. But we also had a day, like a sign-up day, if you will, where I came in, and any kid interested in playing football, come to the cafeteria. Numbers were pretty good. We were in like the 50s, I would say 56 kids, and, 2B freshmen all the way up to 2B seniors showed up. But, a lot of the kids that I'm getting to know a little bit better have been truly guys that have been in the weight room. I'm building a relationship with them, getting to know them very well. I like what I see out of them. As you mentioned, there are a lot of kids that are multi-sport athletes here, and I encourage that. I want my athletes being multi-sport kids. So, there are some kids floating around right now that I'm hoping to get that I haven't quite maybe seen yet or, met yet. I've met some of these kids, but there are some out there, but I've been very encouraged. Like since I've gotten the job and the coach has been named, we've been getting about 20, 22 to 23 kids in the weight room. But again, you add into, some of these baseball kids, lacrosse kids, track kids, we're hoping to be in the 40s. I know that last year at the end of the year, Knoch hit the injury bug quite hard.
Yeah.
And they were down, I think, to like 27 kids they dressed in their last game. And, I come from the belief is, you dance with who shows up to the dance, but it's hard when you only have 20 some kids. And I coached at Northgate where our numbers were always low, and you have to be very strategic in those regards. But, we're hoping if we can get between 40 to 45 kids, I think that's a sweet spot for a school our size. But, I want to try to entice as many kids to play football as I can. I've been noted in the past, and I'm being complimented on it here for my energy and enthusiasm and excitement. So we're hoping, and you can see it, like kids are kind of looking at us in the weight room like, wow, that's different. Like that's not what it's been like. And we've actually attracted some kids that have come to the weight room that haven't played before because they're intrigued about what's going on. And that's what I'm about. I told the kids at the meeting, just come to a practice, give us a try, like just see what it's about. And if it's not what you're about, no, you won't hurt my feelings at all, but at least come and try. So I'm encouraged, like I said, with the numbers that we've been getting to where we're at right now. But I would say here in the next couple of weeks as spring practice or spring sports are winding down and we're getting closer to summer, I really think our numbers will be up, and there is an excitement about, me and the new staff coming in, moving forward.
You probably won't have like a real strong idea about this until you get into some of the summer practices and especially into August when camps opens up. But in terms of what you've been able to see so far with like self-scouting from last year, talking to the kids, talking to whoever else, getting to know what you can about this program and its talent level. Like this is a team that last year we wrote a story about them in the preseason. Like this offense looks loaded, especially for a school its size. How far can this team run? And then, like you mentioned, the injuries kind of really sank it at the second half of the season. I think they finished with like 3 or 4 wins. 3 wins. So, what are your thoughts at this stage right now on the talent that's coming back and what you have to work with and how it might look with the systems you're hoping to run?
Well, when I was looking into the job, part of the appeal was the fact that this program had 8 wins 2 years ago. I mean, 8 wins is hard to do in high school football, and they had that. And, looking at their record last year, 3-6, they stay healthy. The ball bounces a couple of different ways from them watching some of their games. They could have had 4 or 5 wins last year. They were within seconds or a minute maybe of beating Newcastle, and that program has athletes all over the place. But again, once those injuries kicked in and they lost some key guys, that really hurt them. Losing a kid like Cody Mullen that graduated. I mean, I've met him. He's even come to the weight room and introduced himself. What a great kid he is, and I would have loved to have had him. But, losing a kid like that. But the appeal was that there's a foundation. Like there is something to build off of here. Every job I've ever taken over for the most part has been a true rebuild. And, I kind of embrace that. And I mean, I don't look at this as a true rebuild though. Like there is a good foundation here, and, we're going to build off of that foundation with our architectural style, if you will. And, there is some talent coming back. I mean, I would say that the junior class, the 2B juniors, the 10th graders from last year, there's a good group of talent there, and there's a good number of them. We have a really big class of 2B freshmen coming in that I've heard nothing but great things about from, the middle school coaches, people in the community, things like that. We had about, just 2B freshmen, 27 kids or maybe 26 kids came to the meeting, and most of them are guys that are locked into play. So that was encouraging and will be encouraging. But, some of the names that I'm really only going to speak of names of kids that I have seen in person and have been working for me. There are kids that played last year, but I've yet to meet them or yet to see them. So I'm only going to speak on the kids that I've seen because I feel that's fair to them. We have a kid named Carter Barris that was a nice player for them last year. He's a 2B junior. He wears number 6. We're looking at playing him at linebacker. He played a lot of outside last year, but we're looking to move him inside and possibly move him to running back. We have a kid named Ethan Rulo, who is a 2B junior. He was an all-conference performer last year, wears number 7. He's a track kid, runs like an 11.5, 11.4, has good speed, very shifty, can move very well in space. We're kind of looking at him as a wingback slot type kid on offense and possible defensive back on D. Kid named Evan Fink. He's a 2B junior. He got hurt last year in a 7-on-7, and it took some time for Fink to come back. But he's been one of my number 1 weight room guys. Like, I got a lot of respect for that kid right now because of what he's been doing in the weight room. I'm the type of guy, you don't have to be a senior to be a captain in my program. I pick the best leaders, the kids that I feel best represent what we do. And I'm not giving it to Fink right now, but everything I've seen of that kid, he has captain-like qualities. The way he works, the way he conducts his business. Like, I just really like the kid right now. He's a yes sir, no sir program kid. And I heard when he came back, I've retained some coaches. I'm bringing in mostly my guys. But we have a kid named Connor Shinsky that's on the staff, former great player here at Knoch, played at Kent State. He told me Fink dominated a lot of the JV games they played last year. So we're looking at a lot of great things from him. Some other names, we have a kid, Carter Worsley. He's a 2B senior, maybe a tight end and a linebacker. Braden McGowan, he's been working hard in the weight room. James Shatlock is another weight room warrior. Been really killing it in there for us and working hard to get bigger, faster, stronger. He'll be a lineman for us. Zach Zabalski, he's a big track kid, but he comes right from track to the end of our workouts and goes pedal to the metal. And again, his work ethic has really caught my eye. And the last one that, again, and I'm only speaking on the kids that I've seen and know because I feel that's fair to them, is Makai Noah, big lineman. He played guard for them last year. He's a 2B junior. We're probably going to shift him out to tackle, and he'll be a defensive tackle as well. But he's been another one of my weight room warriors. He and Fink, actually, they're good buddies, and they work out together. But those kids are working hard. I mean, there's some talent there. I mean, our schedule's a grind. Like, there's no surprise there. We're a smaller 4A school. You know, you throw the McKeesports and the West Mifflins in there. I mean, it's tough. But I come from the background of being a coach's kid and belief, like, your schedule's your schedule. You got to play your schedule. Like, you know, and I told the kids that, you know, we're going to work differently. We're going to do things differently and have a gritty, tough mindset. And, you know, I want them to believe and buy into the fact that, like, you know, these teams need to worry about what we're doing too. Like, you know, we're not going to fear people. We're going to respect everybody that we play, but, like, we're going to do things differently and take on a mindset where teams are going to have to be like, wow, we have Knoch this week. Like, we better be buttoned up and ready to go because they're a tough, you know, gritty, tough team. But we are young. We don't have a ton of seniors coming back. Like I said, we have a really big, talented 2B junior class, and I'm really excited about this young freshman group that's coming up. So that's kind of what I've seen so far from the kids' standpoint.
TJ, do you consider yourself to be an offensive guy, a defensive guy, and can you give us some insight on what scheme you plan to run on both sides of the ball?
I'm an offensive guy. I mean, I was a quarterback. You know, I'm still Titusville High School's all-time leading passer. I was an all-conference performer at Teal College. Played in a national all-star game when I was in college, was MVP of that game, played some professional arena ball for about 3.5 years. I mean, I know both sides of the ball actually all three phases. I feel I could coordinate any side of the ball there, but I'm an offensive guy. Now for our scheme, a lot of teams will label us a certain way, but I label us as a multi-offense, multi-set offense. I mean, we have components of air raid. We have components of wing T. We can line up double tight, power I. I mean, when I was at Shaler last year and we played Butler in week 0, we beat them pretty much running double tight, power I. We ran an old school offense and just really grinded them, and it worked. We have different philosophies in different genres of football, if you will, but we've kind of like morphed them into one offense. My dad, John Wiley, will be coming down to be our offensive coordinator. He's a 50-year veteran coach. He's in the Pennsylvania State Coaches Hall of Fame. He's coming down to help me out. We're excited about that. Now, on the other side of the ball defensively, they were an odd front defense last year. We're more of an even front. My longtime defensive coordinator, Hank Marziel, is coming out of retirement again. I can't believe my whole band's coming back together. Like it's all happening. No, it's crazy. Like I have such a loyal group of guys that have followed me everywhere, and they're family to me. I mean, my dad is on my staff, but Hank's like my second dad. I mean, Hank used to be the head coach at Pine Richland back when it was Richland High School in the late 80s through like the early 90s. And then he was a longtime assistant at North Hills. So I have two former head coaches as my coordinators who are 50-year veterans of coaching. You have those two guys bookending me. We're bringing a lot of experience to the table. And these guys are still yes, they're older gentlemen, but we just had our first coaches meeting on Saturday. They're still sharp as tacks. I mean, my dad was calling the majority of the offense for Titusville High School last year, running our offense, and they shattered all the single-season rushing records. They had a kid rush for 1,700 yards last year. So Dad still has it. Hank still has it. I'm bringing on another guy, Don Thomas, who's been my line coach at every stop I've been. He's an old veteran. George Frisch, he's been with me every stop of the way. He's coming with me. Again, getting this job, I didn't think this opportunity was going to happen for me again. I mean, I was an assistant at Shaler. I was happy with that, and I thought that's kind of how my career would end. But I always had that itch still. Like, I still wanted this to happen, and it did. And the thought of I didn't think I was going to get to work with my guys ever again, and here we are, and we just laugh every time we're together because we can't believe that it's happened and we're back together, and we're just really excited for this opportunity, and we want to build something special.
TJ, you mentioned that you played, you grew up in Titusville, went to Titusville High School. So that's District 10 ball. Mm-hmm. At what point in your life can you look back on and say, this is where I gained a passion for the game, and who was responsible for that?
Well, I actually didn't grow up in Titusville. I lived all around the state with my dad being a coach. I was actually born in Pittsburgh. My dad was an assistant at North Hills High School. That's where my dad went to school. My dad was the most outstanding athlete in the class of '69 at North Hills. Went off to Ridgeway High School and coached there for a bunch of years, but then came back to North Hills. The 2 years my dad coached at North Hills, they only lost one regular season game in the 2 years he was there, and it was the day I was born. So I was born on a Friday in the month of September, and I always use that in my interviews. I don't know how much more high school football it gets than that. I was born on a Friday in September, so I was literally born on game day. My dad actually left my mom and went and coached in the game after I was born, mind you. I was born pretty early in the morning, like 4 a.m, and they lost, I think, 7-6 on a blocked punt to Gateway. Mark Kelso, who played for the Buffalo Bills for 9 years, he's actually my godfather. I have a great relationship with Kelso. He's actually going to help us from time to time here at Knoch. He still calls me every year on my birthday to remind me, hey, it was 45 years ago today that we lost to Gateway because of you. And I'm always like, thanks, Mark. I appreciate that, and stuff. But I mean, I truly was born on a game day and grew up on a sideline. So through Dad's career, he left North Hills to become the head coach at Clearfield High School. He was there for a couple of years. I grew up mostly out in eastern Pennsylvania in a town called Danville, like 40 miles south of Williamsport, right next to Bloomsburg University. My two best friends growing up were actually Bloomsburg University football coaches' sons because they lived in Danville. They lived right down the street from us. So I grew up in Danville from first grade to ninth grade. Dad actually got fired there, we felt unjustly, kind of like one of those deals, stabbed in the back, if you will. And, my group was coming. I had a very talented group that I was with my grade. My freshman year, we went 9-1, I think, as freshmen, and we went 10-1 as eighth graders. I was actually getting moved up to be the quarterback as a freshman, but I broke my throwing pinky. You can see it still doesn't straighten the right way. the second day of camp, and I had to have it pinned, and I didn't play most of the season. And I mean, Dad went 4-6 that year, but it wasn't, I guess, what Danville was looking for. So, Dad was looking for a job going into my 10th grade year. Through a mutual friend, had a contact up at Titusville, gets the Titusville job. And, I'm a big believer in things happen for a reason, so we moved to Titusville not knowing anybody. After, Dad really turned Danville football around too. Dad won a district title, won an Eastern Conference title. They were ranked number 1 in the state one year for like 8 weeks, So we go to Titusville not knowing anybody. Dad's still statistically winning percentage wise, the all-time winningest coach. I'm the all-time leading passer there. I met my wife there. My sister met her husband there. Like, Titusville gave us everything in our lives. And it was because of that situation that happened at Danville, like what we thought was the darkest day for our family, and feeling like we got kicked to the curb like garbage. It was the best thing that ever happened to us. But I knew from a very early age that I wanted to do what my dad did. I mean, seeing the impact that he had on kids, and how kids would come back and be like, Coach, I am what I am because of you, and things like that. I always wanted that. So ever since I was his ball boy, I knew that's what I wanted. I mean, my dad's my biggest influence in football and life. I mean, he's my hero in every phase. And getting the chance to work with him again, like I said, I just can't believe it's happening. So we're really looking forward to that. But very, very early age, I knew I wanted to be affiliated with the game as long as I could.
Well, you kind of asked the next question on our list there is who's one of your influences with your dad. So beyond your dad, who were like 2 or 3 other guys that have helped influence your coaching career?
Well, like I said, Dad's first and foremost. I mean, he's everything to me. I mean, it's just like that guy. I mean, he can do no wrong. He walks on water to me. Until you come and cover a game this year and you hear me yelling at the old guy in the press box like he's an idiot and he doesn't know what I'm talking about, and I rip my headphones off, because that happens from time to time. I would say my second one, my senior year at Teal, we had a coaching change. I'd played my first 3 years under a guy named Dave Armstrong, but he was fired. And a new guy had come in. And usually when a new coach comes in and you're the senior quarterback, I mean, that can either be a good thing for you or a not good thing for you. And I remember Dad even telling me, he's like, T, buckle your seatbelt. Like, they might bring in their own guy and you might be out of a job, because I'd started since my sophomore year. I lettered as a freshman, but I'd started my sophomore and junior year up at Teal. Guy named Jack Leipheimer. He was the longtime defensive coordinator at Allegheny College. Back in 1990, they won the national title. He was there for years, but he was a Teal guy. He played there. He went there. I was on the player selecting committee that, I was a captain my junior year too. We got to sit in on some of the interviews, and Leap was the guy I wanted. That's what we called him, Coach Leap. Well, he came in, and like, that guy changed my life. Like, I played for him for 1 year, and like, I tell people that was my college coach, and I only played for him for 1 year. He brought in a mantra and a saying and a belief system that I've adopted as my life philosophy, and it's everything that we root ourselves in here at Knoch as well. It's 4 letters, RYFP. It stands for Reach Your Full Potential. Everything we did as football players, we strided to reach our fullest potentials as students, as athletes, and members of the community, and that's what we were about. And I believed so much in that I still use it in my life. Like, what do I have to do to reach my fullest potential as a dad, as a husband, as a friend, as a teacher, as a coach, just being a good person? And that's what we are building off of here at Knoch. Like, we already have like mock-ups of artwork with RYFP on it. The kids are already saying RYFP. I mean, it's everything that we're about. So Coach Leap would probably be number 2 on my list. I mean, I still stay in touch with him to this day. I mean, he turned Teal football around. I mean, we went from being nothing to being nationally ranked in that 2005 season and winning a national playoff game. I mean, that guy means a lot to me. He's actually going to, I just spoke with him a week ago. He's going to come in and talk to the kids here at Knoch about what RYFP is all about. I mean, I call him the godfather of RYFP. I would also say my offensive coordinator my senior year, a guy named John Marska. He was Leap's right-hand man. I mean, this guy was intense. I mean, he would cuss you out and tell you were the worst thing ever. And I got it a lot. He would always have his big rip in and be right up in my face. But like, I loved the guy, and we still have a great relationship. He's now the head coach at Army Prep out at West Point. The kids that are like in the preparatory school for West Point, he's the head coach there. He left Teal to become the head coach at Albright College out in Reading, PA, and got them like really on track. And they were nationally ranked for years. I mean, Coach Marska is like, they all bring different things to the table that I love and try to use myself. And then as a fan from afar, I'm a big, and I know this may not sit well with some of your listeners, I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan. I'm a diehard Bills Mafia guy, and it's because of my godfather, Mark Kelso. I grew up with the Bills, watching him, but I've kept it, and I'm still a Bills guy. Marv Levy was my guy. I mean, I read his books. I loved how he incorporated, history. I'm a history teacher. He incorporated so much history to his players and like stories about historical events, and I just always liked that too. And I kind of taken, note of what he did. So I would say, 3 guys that have been impactful, like in my life, and then 1 guy from afar, Marv Levy as a fan. Those would probably be my Mount Rushmore guys of my coaching life.
Derek, I think we found a kindred spirit in your history buffness.
I'm a huge history fan, TJ. Absolutely.
Yes.
I
love it.
I wanted to bring one thing up here. I didn't think we were even going to talk about this here. I came into the discussion today thinking that you were Titusville born and bred and you went to high school there. As it turned out, you were all over the state, but you had to stop in Danville. Yes. My father-in-law played football at Danville. I mean, this was back in the mid-'50s, but he is from Danville originally.
Your father-in-law?
Ironmen, right?
Yeah, the Danville Ironmen.
Yep.
We were purple and orange. What's the last name?
Fowler, Fowler.
Yeah, I mean, there were Fowlers out there. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Hopefully, you've heard all good things about them. I've heard some shaky things about that crew.
Well, my dad had a guy on his staff out there, but he wasn't a Danville guy. He came in from down around the Philly area. His name was Scott Fowler. They're still very tight. They're in a text. I'm in a text thread with them. We do this Bible text thread every morning with all these different coaches and people that are very influential in our lives. And Scott's part of that. Maybe he is part of that Fowler crew. I mean, Fowler, you said.
Fowler, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe Scott. I'll bring that up with him in the text thread. But yeah, Danville Ironman. Yeah,
that's an interesting connection there. Yes. We got some things in common between the two of you. We're gonna have to send you out.
Small world.
Hey, you'll find this cool. The reason Danville's colors are purple and orange, it has historical significance. The T-rail for railroads were made in Danville. That's why they're the Ironmen. And when they pulled the iron out of the ovens, it was orange. And when it cooled, it was purple.
Look at that.
Interesting.
We need to bring this guy on like once a month just to talk history.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want to quiz him right now or something?
Then I go to Titusville, and our colors were brown and gold, mustard and mud. I was excited to leave purple and orange, and I'm thinking, yes, I'm going to a new school. We're going to get better colors. And I get yellow and brown.
Yeah.
And I love that now because I bleed brown and gold. I mean, I'm a Titusville Rocket. But the reason Titusville's brown and gold, there's no historical significance. And there's no historical significance why we're the Rockets. We were always told that one of the coaches there was like, we'll just be called the Rockets. And that's what we were. But did you know John Heisman for the Heisman Trophy?
From Titusville.
Titusville High School,
right.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look at all these.
My head just exploded. I'm sitting off to the side.
Class dismissed.
I like to know stuff like that. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I love doing that.
We enjoyed talking football with you, obviously, but also history, TJ. We appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, anytime. I love doing things like this. I appreciate the work you guys do. I heard you guys do a really good job covering us here at Knoch, and anything I can ever do to help you guys, we'll be here for you. But keep up the great work. And again, I really, truly appreciate you guys having me on.
Anytime, TJ. Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll be seeing you again soon here.
Absolutely, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Talk some track here. This past week, Butler boys and girls both reached the WPIAL team finals. That meet will be held tomorrow. This is being taped on Monday, so the team finals will be held Tuesday, May 6th at West Mifflin High School. Jake, Brendan's not here to talk about the semifinal meet that he covered, but I guess you perused his article and have a few thoughts on that, mate.
Well, I think too, like all three of us have now covered this team at least once, so we have a little bit of a feel on it. One quick note is North Catholic's girls are in as well for the 2A side of the WPIAL bracket.
Right. That's at Peters Township.
At Peters Township, yeah. This what we're talking about now will probably be moot unless the rain that's expected for a good chunk of this week pushes everything back until Thursday. Who the heck knows at this point? But it's kind of the same stuff we've talked on a few times the last few weeks. Is that Butler boys team? It runs through its relays. That 4x400 Carter Eckes puts up a 48.18 in the anchor leg of that race, which is a PR for him, a ridiculous time. Then the 4x100 sets a school record after like years of trying to get to this, and a couple months of this specific team trying to get it. It's a deep group of relay runners that they have. Some really good sprinters, but then there's guys behind them that aren't necessarily the ones at the top of the 100 or 200 or 400 individually. That they've been rotating in and out based on necessity or injury or sickness or whatever, or just trying to mix things up and see who, the best, who their best guys are, and just, have some variety. I think this feels like it's, from the context that I understand, the best group of relay teams that this team has had in a while, I guess, if not ever. I mean, you would know a little bit better than me, and you obviously keep track of the honor roll stuff throughout the years, the all-time honor roll. So, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but this feels like the strength of this team, these relays, is one of the best it's had.
Definitely one of the best. Absolutely. 42-14, by the way, was the school record that the Butler boys set in the 4x1 relay last Wednesday in the team semifinals. So at West Mifflin on Tuesday, you got the boys going up against North Allegheny, Norwin, and Mount Lebanon. The girls are going up against North Allegheny, Norwin, and South Fayette. Now, earlier this year, obviously, Butler and North Allegheny are section foes, and they faced North Allegheny earlier this season, just a few weeks ago, and they both lost, but both meets were within, I think it was between 9 and 10 points.
Yeah.
So, and you know how track coaches do. When they're going up, when they're preparing for a big meet, a team as well as Butler knows North Allegheny, and vice versa. The coaches are going through the events thinking, okay, second, third place here, win third place here. They kind of score the meet in their head.
Yeah, pull a kid off of one spot to run him another space, or to try to keep him healthy so he can finish better in a race compared to, if he had ran 4 or she ran 4 instead of 3 or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of gamesmanship with it.
So, with John Williams with Butler's girls and, of course, Mike Seibert with the boys team, they're basically saying, hey, let's just do what we did against North Allegheny a few weeks ago and pick up a few more points here or there. I mean, if a meet was decided by 10 points, you just got to basically make up 5 of those. Because if you take 5 away from that previous total for North Allegheny, that ties the score. If it was a 10-point meet when it was actually held the first time. I do want to bring up one thing regarding this team tournament that the WPIAL has. It's been around for a long time. The first year was 1984. And if you're a track kid and really good, let's say you're a stud hurdler, but from the beginning of the season that you don't really have the talent around you to make a bid or make a run at a team tournament championship, you're not, and you end up doing really well yourself that year individually, you're not going to lose any sleep over the fact that my team didn't even make the team playoffs, or my team made the playoffs, but we lost in the semifinal round. But if you're a kid on one of these teams that has a tradition like Butler has, the girls have won 15 WPIAL team titles, the boys 11. So that's 26 team championships at the district level for Butler's track program overall. It is a big deal because the tradition is set, the precedent is set, and this is Butler's third. They've actually won 3 of the last 4 WPIAL team championships, so this is their 4th. They're going for 4 out of 5, and the girls, the last time they won was 2021, which was in the recent past. So these kids know they got the benches up there at the field. I don't know if you noticed this on the football field, where the back of the bench has all the years that the boys won the WPIAL as a team and all the years that the girls won. You want anytime you got a chance to bring hardware back to your school, you're into it. You're up for it, and we'll see how things turn out. I think on the girls' side, It's going to come down to NA, South Fayette, and Butler, those three teams. And on the boys' side, Butler and NA. And again, Golden Tornado trying to turn around a result that happened just a few weeks ago when they got swept by NA, but not by many points. I think I got a shot. I do.
I have one question for you with this because you know this format better than I do. The boys in their semifinal last week snuck in. I shouldn't say snuck in. They did really well, but it was a much tighter finish against all three of their semifinal opponents. The girls ran away with that, no pun intended, in their semifinal. But I don't see them as having like that. Again, I look at the boys' side, and you have that top-end talent in the relays where they're winning 2 out of 3 relays almost every big meet that they're in. Like they're really good. The girls, it seems like they have a lot of like medalists. I don't know if it's all the time like champions in these events in these big invitationals, but it's a lot of like medalists that score those the middle points that you need, that they all stack up. It's not the highlight reel stuff that's going to take home 8 points for gold, but they're pulling in 4, they're pulling in 5, they're pulling in 6, all throughout the meet basically. I don't know what you think of that going into this championship and what their chances are.
Well, that's the thing, that team championships, you absolutely need depth, because let's face it, you're going up against 3 other teams that are really, really good. You're not going to place first overall in every event. Obviously, you need those 3 points that come from second place, that 1 point that comes from a third place. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to which team has the most depth, which team, if they don't win an event, can get second or third place.
Yeah.
But with Butler's girls, I do want to point one thing out here. And again, by the time this runs, this meet's probably going to be over with, barring bad weather. But Butler's girls, they're going up against, again, NA, Norwin, South Fayette. Their meet with Seneca Valley's girls, they actually lost.
Yeah.
Seneca Valley's girls beat Butler in the regular season, and this past week in their own semifinal meet, South Fayette beat Seneca. Now, I know that's no guarantee of what's going to happen this week, but the point is these are the 4 best balance-wise teams in the WPIAL when it comes to boys and girls, and you got to bring – I hate to use the cliche here, but you got to bring your A game, because all these teams are hungry. Like I said, you got a chance to bring hardware home to your school. You want to do it. This is kind of like the prelude to the WPIAL individual championship meet, which is being held next week. But these kids are going to be going all out, and best of luck to both Butler teams. And as you mentioned, also North Catholic, which will be down at Peters Township High School for the AA championship meet, going up against Laurel, Carlinton, and Quaker Valley. We can rehash what happens in these meets next week on the show.
All right, subbing in again for Brendan.
What was Terry Bradshaw's third wife's shoe size? She didn't have feet. Trick question.
I don't know.
I'm sorry. Excuse me? His third wife? He had 3 wives.
I think so. I think he's on his third wife right now, actually. He just to throw this out there, he's actually married to a professional ice skater at one point. Her name was JoJo Starbuck.
I think
that's a great name.
You know
right
what?
there.
I need to go back and listen. I feel like that's like the 3rd or 4th time you've mentioned that.
I just love saying the name.
JoJo Starbuck.
So
good name.
We're going to have to re-record this if I've already asked this question to Derek, because sometimes I'll ask these trivia questions out loud when I'm putting together our print trivia questions for the month. But I didn't know that I was going to be on this duty today, so we had to wing it as quickly as possible. Here we go. How many Heisman Trophy winners does Penn State have?
1.
All right.
John Capoletti,
That's the answer?
1973.
He even knows the name.
Oh, yeah.
Brendan's going to be really upset.
I couldn't go with Pitt because I knew he would answer that one pretty quick. I thought I'd maybe get him on Penn State, maybe, or at least make him think. I figured you'd get it, but I want to see if you would have to think about it for a moment. I failed. I'm sorry, Brendan. When you hear this later.
You succeeded as far as I'm concerned. Thank you, Jake. 19 and 16 now, by the way. My head's above water for now.
All right, and also, too, we've got Beyond Brendan with Butler substituted by Jake. Again, winging this because I wasn't aware that I was going to be taking on these duties this week until a couple minutes before the show. But we had the Kentucky Derby this week. Journalism did not win. Journalism rarely wins. It's an event that I have covered twice now. Never thought that was going to be on a bucket list item of mine that I would get to cover, or at least participate in coverage. And Derek, my question for you this week, off the top of my head, is what is the one sport you'd either like to cover at any level, high school, college, pro, international, whatever, or that you have like a secret fandom for that we've never talked about? You know, because we always talk about football, baseball, hockey, and a little bit of basketball.
Wow.
You can take this in either of those directions, wherever you want to go.
I am going to say, and I'm not, as you know, I have made comments about how much I enjoy covering high school soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of grew into that. First time I covered soccer for the Herald Standard down in the bowels of Fayette County back in the fall of 2001, I'm like, okay, they kicked the ball. It went past the line. They won 1-0. So I kind of grew into it.
Me with field hockey.
But I will say this. I am really intrigued by the World Cup every 4 years.
Okay.
To me, it not only involves a sport that I enjoy watching, but it also involves geography. I love the group stage. When you have a country, I was going to say school, a country like Sweden playing Ivory Coast, like two countries that have never even thought of each other.
Yeah.
You ask somebody in Sweden, find Ivory Coast on a map. They probably couldn't do it. But here they are. Everybody's focused on that game. And for a 2-hour period, they're focused on their country and this country, two countries that wouldn't be paired in any other sense in any other category other than the fact that they're playing each other in the World Cup. I think that's pretty cool. Geography and sports, I'd love to send me overseas. Actually, isn't it in the U.S. next time?
That's
it, CJ. It's perfect.
I was going to be following up with you on that.
Perfect segue. Send me, Jake. Send me. What is it, 2028 now?
It's 2026. It'll be
2026.
The final will be in Philadelphia. So that gives Philadelphia.
Perfect.
And one of my friends works in city government in Philly, and he's like, I just want to be as far away from the city for as long as possible next summer because it's the 250th, and the city is seemingly not prepared.
Have you been
at all.
around European soccer players? Because I have.
Not
or
really, no.
Rugby, football. What are they? They want to be called football players, right? Sorry.
For pretty
You
much
just
every
confused
other
me.
country other than us, it's football.
It's football.
But
yeah.
you know who invented the word soccer?
No.
Britain.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
And they want to be highfalutin about it.
Well,
You
we're
guys
just
call
full
it
of
soccer.
history
I do
nods
wanna-
today.
Soccer is of British origin.
Yeah,
But
that's kind of weird.
But they do call it football though.
Yes,
That's what's interesting.
yes. And then they give us crap.
It's like
for
we'll show
using
you how
soccer.
to play football. We don't wear pads or helmets or, and they're
Yeah, they also don't have 240-pound linebackers coming.
True.
And I will say this: I like covering soccer. I like watching soccer, but my God, the flops. I mean, oh my gosh, the flops are horrible.
the flops.
Where guys will just try to draw a penalty by faking an injury or faking.
They get like barely touched and they go flying.
Oh, yeah,
they're great actors. Great
I
I've
love
seen
when
it at
they
the high school
jump
game
and,
too.
like-
They can do it at the high school game too.
I get why in a lot of cases, like, yeah, you sell the foul, but
Yeah.
like sell the foul. Don't make up a foul. The question I was going to ask you, two other questions with the World Cup stuff since you brought that up. Would you try to go next year at all? They're playing in Philly, Cincinnati hosting one, Chicago's hosting, LA is obviously hosting. I
So
think
Philly's the
Seattle.
closest.
Philly, I believe, is the closest to us. New Jersey, Meadowlands is going to be hosting a couple of them. And then there's like some down south. And there's also Mexico City and I think Montreal or Toronto are hosting it because it's North America. It's not just the U.S., but the U.S. is going to have the majority of the
Yes,
host
for
sites.
anyone into geography, the continent of North America is separate from Canada and America and Mexico. All of those make up the continent, North America. For anyone out there who might be confused.
I wouldn't go myself.
Thank you.
And I wouldn't pay to go. Let's put it that way. If I can, hey, my wife just won those Pirate tickets a few weeks ago. She works for Allegheny Health Network, and she was part of a raffle. She won tickets. If I won tickets and my wife and kid could go with me, and somebody paid for our hotel and our gas money and our turnpike fees, absolutely, I'd go out there. Jake,
I'd really like to go to it. I don't know if I could afford it. Like even an early group stage match. The other question I had for you, so last year they announced where the U.S. would play its home matches. So the host team gets to kind of pick which cities it gets to play in. Like, we don't know what the groups are because qualifying still hasn't ended yet. But Team USA is not going to play in the city of Philadelphia at any point in the tournament, except there's like one path, because the Inquirer did this and I don't remember what it is. There is one path in which Team USA could somehow play a semifinal or quarterfinal in Philly. The finals being held in the Meadowlands, not in Philadelphia on the 250th, which I find kind of interesting that like they're not going to go all in on patriotism here. But what do you think of the fact that the U.S. is going to play like in Portland, L.A., and I think Chicago or something like it's all West Coast. They're not going to play it all in the founding city.
Literally. Yeah, I'm an East Coast guy. I mean, I am not like, I've never been to New York, but when it comes to, we're in the right time zone. People out in the Pacific, I can't imagine. I know this is a little bit off topic. It's off topic. Can you imagine waking up in California and saying, okay, I got to catch that Eagles game. It's 10 in the morning out there. I just can't.
That'd be great. I think it'd be so nice, though.
But no, I think East Coast. Some people say East is least, but I think the East Coast deserves a little bit more attention, considering when's the next time we're going to host it, right? Yeah. It's going to be, I think the last time was 94 for the men's at least, right?
Yeah, and the women's was 98.
Okay, so yeah, I think the East Coast deserves a little bit more love. So who can I write a letter to? Hey, SRU. They can host games.
SRU.
Bob the Spirito Field at N. Kerr Thompson Stadium.
I love this. All of what, 10,000 fans we could get in there?
Maybe. Yeah, I think maybe. Yeah. But who would show up?
Derek Pida.
John and Darlene.
John
and Darlene they'd be there.
That's true. They would be there.
They'd mingle. Darlene would mingle. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So we're going to turn the discussion back to high school sports here. Seneca Valley senior softball star Lexie Hames wrote another memorable chapter in her high school career last week, pitching a no-hitter with 18 strikeouts. I believe she had one walk, so that's what kept her from the perfect game. I think they beat Cannon McMillan that day 5-0. Brendan just did a story on Lexie, and it also included a lot of details from her mom, who is herself a former star pitcher at Seneca Valley. This girl, obviously, her high school career is not over yet. There's a lot of season left. We'll see what they do in the playoffs, but you're not yet here a year, but I know you've heard and read Lexie Hames' name a lot. Jake, what are your impressions of her?
Really just dynamic player. I mean, it was either that game or one right before that where she went like 1-for-1 with a double and 3 intentional walks. And you've mentioned a couple times before too in the office off mic and everything, like she gets intentionally walked a lot because she's a great pitcher, but she can also swing the bat really well. She's, I think, one of our county leaders in home runs. She's definitely up there in RBIs, and I think she hits leadoff, or she's up there in the top 2, I think, in the lineup most often. I mean, she's just really good. She's going to Clemson. I mean, I don't know what the scholarship total is on that, but I imagine it's got to be at least half. I've seen that she's ranked as like high as number 1 in the country as best pitcher of her class. The story that Brendan did, which is out in today's paper Monday and online at butlereagle.com, it's about her and her mom, Marlise, who's also the high school coach, just traveling like this nomadic life that they had all summer with club ball and with Team USA stuff, developmental program stuff. At one point, they were home for like 11 days or something like that this summer that I think Brendan wrote about. I'm sure that it's been this way for a few years when you're this elite of a player. It's not like you just suddenly go out on the travel circuit as a rising senior. She's been doing this for a while, but we kind of did a snapshot on just what this last year has been like for them. And just, I mean, she's really good. Like she single-handedly changes games a lot is everything I keep seeing.
Regarding the batting, I think I ran through her high school career as far as how they did season-wise a few weeks ago. I'll rehash that quickly. Her freshman year, they made the state championship game, lost it. Mm-hmm. Her sophomore year, they did not even make the state playoffs because, as we talked about, they only take one team from the WPIAL, and they lost in the WPIAL championship game that year. I believe it was to Hempfield, and in that game, she was intentionally walked like 3 times.
Yeah.
And last year they won the WPIAL, made it to the second round of state, and lost in, I guess that would be the quarterfinals. But regarding her pitching, it's crazy. It speaks for itself. She has multiple no-hitters now. She's averaging 18 strikeouts a game. Regarding her hitting, though, when you're going up to the plate and the vast majority of the time you're getting intentionally walked, and then that one time a game, maybe once every other game, when you're legitimately getting pitched to have the focus and still stay honed in on what you need to do and come up with a big hit. You mentioned that one game she had a double and was intentionally walked 3 times. I think it would be very easy for a high school kid to kind of lose their focus when you're not getting pitched to, then all of a sudden you're getting pitched to.
Yeah.
To stay focused and take advantage of those pitches, the few pitches that you actually get that you can hit, to take advantage of them.
I would imagine, though, too, a pitcher of her caliber, she's going in, okay, this is the at-bat where they're not going to try to pitch around me as much. Even when they do pitch to her, I imagine that they're like pitching around her a lot. It's a lot of stuff outside the zone, just see if she's going to chase because she's getting antsy. But I imagine like that one at-bat a game where it's like, okay, they're going to have to throw me something in the zone here to hit. She's sitting there going, she's not as good as I am at this. Like, she's going to leave a meatball in the middle of the plate. She's going to leave a hanging curveball in the middle of the plate that I'm just going to crush. Like, there's got to be some fun in that. Just like, yeah, I'm better at you at the job that you're currently trying to do against me, and I've got you already.
Have you ever seen the original Bad News Bears?
Yes.
Where they try to intentionally walk Kelly Leak, and he literally like lunges for the ball and hits like a triple to the gap on a pitch that's like 3 feet outside. Lexie Hames is, I've been my first spring here was 02. We've had a lot of good softball players. I mentioned off mic to you earlier before the show, Monica Glum was a stud pitcher at Mars, led them to a WPIAL title, ended up pitching at Kutztown for 4 years. She was a good average hitter. I think she probably hit for her career above 300, but she was a smaller girl. I mean, she didn't have the power that Lexie Hames has. When you combine what she's able to do in the circle, along with how she's, how she's able to take advantage of the pitches in the zone at the plate, I think it's pretty safe to say she's the best softball player in our coverage area since I've been here, and that's 23 years. So we'll see how things turn out. They have to win the WPIAL to get to the state playoffs.
Yeah.
There's no room for error there. And I mentioned this a few weeks back. For her to not even get a shot at making a run in the state playoffs as a senior, knowing this is it for her high school career, that would be a shame. But that's how it works out. And if you are good enough to beat them, as Hempfield was 2 years ago, you obviously earn your spot. But I know Seneca, this is their last year with her on the roster. She's a senior. She's headed to Clemson. And you know that they want to make a run, get to the state playoffs, and see what happens there.
I'm going to leave a very vague teaser here for people listening, but Lexie Hames, best softball player of at least the last 25 years. We might be bringing that up again in a couple months.
Just a couple months.
A couple months.
Stay tuned.
Have a good week, everyone. I will try to walk a little bit smoother in the next couple days.
We encourage you to subscribe to the Butler Eagle YouTube channel and Apple or Spotify podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alter Eagle Podcast and at Butler Eagle News. Goodbye.